Morning.
Good morning.
We're long enough into it now. You can give us a not just a woman's opinion, but the owner's opinion. Somebody that's not got diff gears in their brains. Out of the Fortuner that a lot of people loved, into a 300. Talk us through the reasoning.
The main reason was I liked the look of this car. And I thought about it for a long time because I knew when I mentioned it to you, you'd be so into buying it.
Oh yeah, it didn't take us long once you said it.
No, I just thought about it for 6 months and then I finally told you, and then 2 months later we had one.
Like, did it have to be a Toyota?
It had to be a Toyota.
On your decision?
My husband wouldn't drive my little car that I had previously.
Oh yeah, the i30.
Before the Fortuner.
So we said goodbye to the Fortuner. You got yourself into a much bigger car. The Landcruiser LC300, the GR Sport we have here. Now we've owned this vehicle long enough to be able to give an honest review and share our family experience with you. Now this variant here, the GRS, it's second from the top as far as models in its range. And the only reason that we chose this model is because Chelle loves that front end. So some favourite things?
My favourite things. I love the comforts. I like moving up from a Fortuner to this car. It's got some really nice luxurious pieces that I like. So I like the air conditioning in the seat and also the heated steering wheel.
And is it a gimmick or is it actually nice, the heated stuff?
No, it's nice. Like, it's nice to have a little bit of cool air between your leg and the leather seats.
So for me, the advantage of her liking this model, the fact that it comes with front and rear lockers, I mean, it's a win-win. So while modern traction control aids are very capable this day and age, there is absolutely no substitute for lockers. Now the GRS is the only one in its range that offers that. There's no options to tick in any of the others. And it still confuses me that you have to buy the second dearest model to get them. Now complementing the diff locks, we have the EKDSS suspension. So that simply stands for Electronic Kinetic Dynamic Suspension System. Now this is amazing to drive on, all the different modes you have on-road, but off-road. The EKDSS disconnects the sway bars for so much more articulation. So for us, some of the trips we've done, we've actually used this vehicle as it was intended. Whilst other times for Chelle, it's a luxurious small crawler and a pretty cool soccer mum's car. So as a shopping trolley, the height of it, do you think that Toyota shrunk the roof so that mums or anyone in general can get into car parks?
In some respects, it's still a little tall.
Yeah.
We took it into Bondi Junction.
That's right, yeah.
And how much did it miss?
Oh, not much.
Top, like about that much.
Yeah.
And that was 2.1, I think.
But we've got a little bit of a lift with the tyres. You couldn't help yourself, you had to get tyres straight away.
Did I?
Yeah, it's not touching, it's a perfect size tyre. No touch. That's awesome. And all the safety features that we couldn't work out at the beginning, all the buzzers and the beeps, you're all over it now, aren't you?
I think I've worked out most of the safety features, but I don't normally reverse it up to hook up the caravan.
But what about this CD player?
I hear it's handy.
For what?
When you don't have reception in the middle of the outback. Like you can't get radio reception,
that's right.
You can't get your mobile phone to download and stream music. So
let me ask you something. We know this is a cool fridge.
It's the best fridge. I had a cooler in the Fortuner in the front, but it would barely keep your drinks cold. And this cooler here, you can put a drink in there that's room temperature and it cools it down for you.
It is actually a cooler. But what I was going to ask you, do you miss the storage? Like putting stuff in? Because
that's pretty terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's hard to put the service manual in there.
That's right.
And I do miss this one.
And the sunroof, it's a pretty cool feature.
I think it's mimicky, like...
The sunroof?
Yeah.
Yeah, but look how much more light you just got.
I love it, and opening it up when it's hot to let the hot air out. But do you really need it? I don't know.
You don't need it. But
you don't need it.
No. And they say that
I do need air conditioning seats now.
You do need air conditioning seats now.
Yeah.
That's like having a house with a pool. You can never not have a pool in a house. True?
True.
So your day-to-day driving, you're always in eco mode, and you had a little complaint which we spoke to Toyota about. You felt the lag.
Yeah, I thought I felt the lag when you try and take off.
And it's fixed now with the auto tune?
I think it's better.
The GRS offers 5 different drive modes on the road, and all 5 adjust the acceleration response and comfort levels. So what sports mode does, it customizes not only the steering, it makes the steering a little bit stiffer, and it customizes the accelerator and the suspension. So whatever that torque converter's doing in there, whatever gear it's locking itself into, it's happy. It's really, really happy. And the ratios in there, I feel while it's a big, wide range of gears, they must be close together.
It's got a nice control panel.
Yeah, and it really is nicely finished. That's like a TV screen. But I hear that you still need this for Apple CarPlay.
This is one thing that's not so good.
You would think with the technology we have, you put it on here to charge and it should talk to the screen. It's a bit of controversy we hear on the tube about oil usage and motors, and we still got to deal with that, don't we?
Yeah. Automatic tailgate is great when you're dropping kids off at school.
So you hit the button and they get their bags.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That saves me getting out of the car.
That's very nice. As far as the size goes, you feel comfortable with it? It feels like you can handle it?
Can I handle it? Don't mind the length, the width of the car, but the height, I still feel like it limits me going to parking lots in the city. But not everyone has to worry about that.
And it's a very nice car to go away with. We've been away with it a few times.
Oh, it drives so nicely.
There's a lot more room in the back for the kids,
which they're going to struggle with in the 79
as they get older. Yeah. So while it's new to us, we didn't come out of a 200 series. Chelle had the Fortuner prior to this, but the shape's been around now for a couple of years, and I believe the only difference throughout the range is with the GRS, the grille. To the eye, compared to the 200 series, the roof height on the 300 appears to be quite a lot lower. Any regrets?
Any regrets?
You come out of this car and what's the first thing you say every time you drive? No, you don't, not that you drive it often, but I know what it is, but what's the first thing you always say when you come into the house?
I love this car.
3 words that I would choose to describe the look of our 300 series. Elegant would be one, as well as dynamic and stylish. A beautiful looking motor vehicle. Super clean lines. So the majority of this vehicle is aluminium. So anything that is hinged is aluminium. And the paint thickness on the aluminium panels is a lot thicker than, say, what the 79's metal panels have. The GRS doesn't offer the 3rd row of seats. So it's basically a 5-seater. Now while we're talking about the back, used to touring in a dual cab ute where you've got a tray space of 1800 by 1800. You can see here with the 80 litre Engel in the back, that's the size fridge we run. There's not much space for much else. So for us to tour in a vehicle like this without a trailer, we'd be in all sorts of trouble.
I like how responsive it is. As a car, like, it's so smooth in its changing gears and drives lovely.
How do you get that in Bullet Truck? Spotters are no more. It's kind of cheating, isn't it? Look, it's showing me where my wheels are.
So I also like the cameras to help with parking.
Bit heavy on fuel, but we live in a really hilly area.
I think it's a hilly area, it's also congested, so you
stop start
all the time, traffic lights.
Whilst the cabin space is very generous, a lot of room in the back seat, in my opinion, for us, for what we take away, it lacks storage area in the boot. Whilst in this boot area, we have a power source. Now I think Toyota should have thought a lot broader when they did this and put at least a cigarette plug here or an Anderson plug. Most of your 12 volt accessories, fridges especially, they need this outlet to run. So we got a 240 volt outlet here. And apart from potentially charging a drone battery or a mobile phone battery, we ended up on a couple of our trips needing to plug our Engel into our Anderson plug, which we have under where the tow bar is, which normally feeds power to the Jayco. But the seals on that back tailgate They were fine having the lead coming through the rubber. No dust got past where it was going to go anyway.
I like when you put it into park, the handbrake goes on itself.
Yeah.
And then I like when you take it out of park into drive or reverse, it comes off. So you don't have to worry about it. Now, the occasional time you might drive away with your 79 and the handbrake's on.
I do.
You don't have that here.
But I understand it is an amazing feature, and we'll see down the track on what it takes to keep the upkeep on it.
Something that I don't really like.
Ooh, a negative.
Yeah, I don't really like how when I stop it, it always moves the seat.
Yeah, I hate that too.
I don't understand. Like, am I too big to get out of the car?
That's true.
It's made for people to give them more room, I guess, but I don't need it.
I find, and I don't know if you're the same, I would like this steering wheel to go up higher. I've got the chair down as far down as it goes. And you're only small, but look. So when you're driving, you've got that space, but your chair's gone back now. So start it again. The chair will come back to where you've wanted it. I feel that for me, I can't get that steering wheel up or the chair down. So if I was a bigger guy, I don't know how bigger guys do it. Turn it off, the chair goes back. Turn it on, comes forward. Look. What a waste of energy. Seriously. There's a moving part there that's going to get tired eventually.
And what do the kids like? They like the aircon.
Oh, the kids.
Individualised.
We're kidless right now. We should go on a date.
Yeah, it sounds nice.
The interior on this one, Chelle got the red leather. And in real life, it really is an attractive interior. More bells and whistles in this vehicle than I've ever had in my life. But having owned it now for the time we have, we've pretty much worked everything out.
Well, thank you, miss, for your time, and we'll carry on with all the blah blah now. So there's no actual tow mode. We're going to tow in Sports S+.
So under the bonnet we have the most powerful Landcruiser to date. A 3.3 V6 twin turbo. It produces 227 kilowatts, 700 Newton meters. From a standing start here, seconds it took from a standing start to 100 kilometers an hour. We got the OBD reader on board and plugged in, and I ran it on some of the bigger hills. So we got as hot as about 630 EGT wise. Most of the time when the temperature did get up around the 620 to 630, it would gear back. And the EGTs would drop quite dramatically. Now you'd expect of a vehicle of this caliber for that to happen. So coming down the big descend before you hit Mount Victoria, and the brakes on this 300 are just superior. The factory wheels are an 18 by 7.5, and in my opinion, with all that off-road ability, the weakest link is the factory tyre. That's going to be the one thing off-road that will let you down. Ground clearance and ramp over are two other things. As you can see here with ours, the tyres we've chosen, we've gained an inch of height over standard as well. But the ground clearance to the bottom of the step there is 235 mil, and the ramp over angle of 21 degrees. Disappointing Toyota didn't go the same way they went with the GRS Hilux and give the 300 a sturdier side step for that extra sill protection, considering that ramp over. We've got a 10-speed auto with a crawl ratio of 42.62 to 1. Call it 43 to 1. Add the auto and the torque converter to that, and there's not much that you're not going to be able to crawl up. Now from factory, we've got a departure angle of 25 degrees and an approach angle of 32. Obviously, aftermarket bar work would change that.
Back's hitting the ground. Right. Let me see. Oh, no, it's just your mud flap. It's your mud flap.
Also too, your plastic front and rear bumper bars, as you see here, unless you're fitting aftermarket bar work.
Amazing.
But then you've got to consider suspension, and then you're basically throwing away the KDSS suspension. A wading depth on these without a snorkel on the factory tyre at 700mm. Again, the confusing part. You've got the lockers and the wicked suspension, but if you want to put a lift and bigger shoe, then you've got to upgrade the suspension. So we got a 33.2 by 10.8 inch tyre under this one. Still using the factory rim. Back to 6-stud rims, believe it or not. But what the factory rim doesn't offer is a wider stance. So these are a positive 60 rim on the factory 300. So I think at the very minimum, without putting flares on, you could go the positive 40. Now what that's going to do, that's going to bring the rim away from the chassis 20mm each side. The payload on the GRS is a little bit more than what you get in the others, not having the back seats in. We haven't talked about GVMs yet, but it's pretty healthy, the payload. We've got a GVM of 3280 and a tear weight of 2545. So that's 735 kilos of payload. So if we were towing Bullet, you've got 300 kilos. So 2 adults, 2 kids, we're still under. We put the angle in the back, even a full carton of beer, we're still under for now. But for most families, towing a smaller van with less bore weight and smaller kids, you're right. Now I was also surprised, for 5 years, the service charges of $400. Look, I'm sure moving forward, if it needs anything other than what's in your service book, you will be charged, obviously. But I mean, for somebody to go and buy the oil and the 3 filters needed at the very minimum of a service, you're already up around the $400 anyway. So we've had our first one done, and in our first one, they took all the alarm bells off the tailgate. Silent as. It also says here that it checked, cleaned and deglazed brakes. Huh? Chelle did a bit of research on the lag of the 300s, and a lot of people had some software updates done. We mentioned this at our dealer, at our service. At the beginning, they didn't really want to know about us. I think he saw the 79 in the background a little bit done up and maybe thought to himself, oh, this bloke might know a bit. But the update they gave us was on the gearbox. There was an update service for the gearbox, and it seems to have made Chelle a lot happier. She says the lag is less. And the fuel consumption, she did a trip the other day and it was under 10 litres per 100. I mean, it's a beautiful car to drive, and when you're on the highway, you barely hear the engine. At 110, you're sitting at 1500 RPM. And 100, 1400. The soundproofing is amazing. I mean, that's coming from me who drives a 79. And it's only got a 110 litre tank, this vehicle. You know, you talk about the 70s having 130. I'm not sure why it's not a bigger tank. And I mean, just driving this vehicle, you can tell that it's made for towing. Not only the power and the 10-speed box, but the brakes and suspension. It's asking to have weight on the tow bar. The diff ratios, 3.3 to 1, amazing. When you consider it's a 10-speed box, all the power that it has, the cruising RPMs, having the sway bar disconnect, it's just genius. I mean, we physically have to take sway bars off to get any real flex out of the 79. One thing that's a bit disappointing, and that is not being able to use the factory lockers in high range. So that means any sort of beach driving, and we saw Evan on the Simpson Desert trip, some of the big dunes. He had to then go back in a low range, where it would have been much easier in those circumstances, towing a trailer to make the dunes in high range, where you do have more wheel speed, more momentum. So I'm going to go out there and say I'm not particularly impressed with how much fuel this is using around town, around where we live. It's doing the same kind of driving as the 79, but at 16.8 litres per 100. So we're on a couple of different forums for the 300s, and apparently there is a tune that gives more power and less fuel consumption being used. So we might have to look into that. But around town, yeah, I'm not too impressed with it actually. Have a look at that for factory headlights. It's super handy too, being able to just charge your phone while it's sitting there. So turning the cool box on also turns on the front air conditioning. I can't see. Oh my goodness, the light comes on. So the burns are taking a lot longer on the freeway than they do in town, driving around the city. So the computer obviously knows that you're on the highway, you're doing big speeds, and it's doing a longer burn for some reason. Whereas when it stops start, it comes to its burn period and it gets through.
Obey all traffic regulations.
And then when it knows it's in town, it'll do the burn a lot quicker. So I reckon that's been burning probably...
Please obey all traffic regulations.
That's been burning for a good 10 kilometres. But at home, they seem to come through the counters a lot quicker. It's not consistent. You can't compare one burn to another. Even in the same climates and temperatures, it varies. So a little bit of a pet hate for me because I like to be able to know or be in control of things that are happening. So just of late, a lot of controversy about 300 motors. Now the oil grade that's been used and been told to use. So while we're still using the 020, and I'm using that in the 79 too, I'll do a bit more research into it. I'll definitely change the weight of the oil in the 300, and I'm leaning towards doing the same with the 79. I mean, the 79's got 30,000 Ks and it's towed from day one on 020. I've dropped the intervals back to about 7,500 on the 79. Now look, just because you've spent all this money on a vehicle of this caliber, it's actually not ready to tow anything. It doesn't come with the tow hitch, doesn't come with the trailer plug. Trailer brakes. Then obviously if you're towing a caravan, you need an Anderson plug, electric brakes. So it was a race against time to get it all done so that we could tow quickly to test it. In my opinion, if you're going to be towing a 3-ton van, you're going to want something like this 300. Thanks for your time.
Oh, thanks for coming for a drive with me.
Oh, it was a pleasure. And as always,
thanks for watching.